today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
Why is your relationship feeling so stuck? The communication problems are usually grounded in our attachment styles. Emotional distance is where we are protecting our emotions. It's a lack of vulnerability. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and we're going to talk about, is your relationship stuck? Understanding attachment styles to break free. And truthfully, there's not a couple on earth that doesn't feel stuck at one time or another, whether it's emotional distance, frequent arguments, or a sense that things just aren't moving forward. Maybe it's that parallel lives thing we like to talk about so much here on Rich in Relationship. The one where you're kind of roommates raising children together but separately. What if the problem isn't just them? I mean, very often when relationships are stuck, we're pretty sure that they are the problem. Oh, we may own that we've got some shortcomings here or there, but we spend a lot of time in hurt and anger blaming the other person. But what if it's something about the way you were raised and the way they were raised and how you connect to other people? Well, this idea of how we connect is called attachment style. And we're going to talk today about attachment styles and how they can inhibit relationships moving forward and how you can identify these attachment styles and what you can do to get unstuck, basically. The most common area where couples feel stuck is communication breakdowns. I was watching romantic comedy on Netflix. Yeah, guess what? I spent a lot of time watching romantic comedies. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a relationship guy. And there was this couple where the husband really just didn't speak. He spoke a lot. He's in the military, speaks a lot through body language, but he just doesn't have a lot of words. And the wife is super verbal, right? And so we're having constant communication breakdowns. Or maybe you're not having that kind of situation. Maybe the communication breakdown is that you both like to talk a lot and you're just not really hearing each other, or you're misunderstanding each other. No matter what you say, they don't seem to get it. No matter what they say, you think you got it, but they don't think you got it. Communication problems are usually symptoms of a deeper disconnect. The communication problems are usually grounded in our attachment styles. They're grounded in our ability to really make sure that we understand what the other person is saying. They're grounded in our ability to express our own emotions in a way that doesn't sound blaming to our partner. And we've talked a lot about that in Rich in Relationship. But at the heart of communication breakdowns, whether you're having all-out fights, or whether you're avoiding fights and then having them once in a while, or whether you're talking and you just feel like you're missing each other, you're always ending on a bad note, is at the heart of it is emotional distance of some kind. What is emotional distance? Emotional distance is where we are encapsulating or protecting our emotions. It's a lack of vulnerability. Not that you can't be vulnerable, not that they can't be vulnerable, but in this relationship, you're just not showing up that way for some reason. And at the root of that is we feel our needs are not being met. And when our needs are not being met and it gets a little scary and people get a little hostile, right, we tend to shut down emotionally, and that doesn't help communication. And the result of that is that we repeat the same conflicts or a lack of conflict without resolution. And let me be really clear. Healthy relationships have conflict. But that word conflict is loaded for a lot of people. So let me rephrase that. Healthy relationships have disagreements, and unhealthy relationships, the disagreements turn into conflict. That's probably a better way to put it. I mean, technically, a disagreement is a conflict, but for the sake of this conversation, let's call a disagreement something that has less of an emotional charge, and a conflict is something that has more of an emotional charge. I think if we looked in the definition of those words, we might find that's pretty accurate. So in a healthy relationship, disagreements not only are aired out, not only are they resolvable, but they create something new and joyful. There's actually a kind of prosperity that emerges out of disagreement in a healthy relationship. And what makes the relationship healthy is that both people in the relationship feel safe expressing themselves. They feel like they don't have to guard themselves with the other person. There's less care and defensiveness involved. If you're feeling stuck, the chances are you're not having disagreements. You're either having conflict or you're avoiding disagreeing and avoiding conflict that might come out of that disagreement because it just doesn't feel safe. Those kinds of discussions, those kinds of meetings just don't feel safe. Not feeling safe leads to feeling stuck, right? The relationship can't evolve and grow without resolution of difference. We talked in earlier episodes about strong partnerships. In strong partnerships, each person comes into the partnership with a different set of skills and different strengths and different weaknesses. What that means is that there's, by definition, a partnership brings forth disagreement. And it is in the unique application of each partner's skills and strengths to that disagreement that leads to a creative resolution. Well, guess what? Statistics show that about 40% of couples, in therapy at least one partner who have some form of attachment style that leads to conflict or conflict avoidance. I would argue it's even higher, but I don't create the statistics. So let's talk a little about these attachment styles and what do they mean? There are 4 categories of attachment styles. And the first is secure. We all want to believe that we have a secure attachment style. This is about 50% of the population. It's really interesting. Actually, it's probably really more like 35 or 40% of the population has a secure attachment style. That means they're comfortable in their own skin and they don't have a lot of trouble connecting. Then about 25% of the population has what's called an anxious attachment style. Anxious attachment style means they have anxiety about their connection with the other person. In the secure attachment style, there's not a lot of anxiety. They're comfortable connecting. They're comfortable not connecting. In an anxious attachment style, when they're triggered, what they do is they push for connection. They press for connection. That's the expression of the anxiety. About another 25% of the population has what's called an avoidant attachment style. And basically that means anytime something uncomfortable comes up, they're avoiding intimacy, right? And the last group is what's called fearful-avoidant, and this is 10 to 15% of the population. And fearful-avoidant means not only do they avoid, but when something comes up, they're afraid and they avoid. That means they're very triggerable. They're not just avoiding connection, but they're avoiding it with fear, looking out for an attack. 50 or 60% really 50%, I would say, or less, have secure attachment style, meaning they're generally comfortable with intimacy. However, the remaining 60 or 65% of people have an insecure attachment style, meaning anxious-avoidant or fearful-avoidant. And what we like to say is challenges in the relationship come from this 60 or 65% of the population. I think this is really unfair, by the way, because if one were really secure, we wouldn't find the anxious or avoidant or fearful avoidance so challenging. But I can only work with the statistics that we have. And so, as unfair as it may sound, the challenges in relationships come out of this 50 or 60%, maybe 65% of the population that are anxious avoidant or fearful avoidant. Let me give you an example. All right. I'll give you an example out of my own life. When studying this, what my wife and I discovered is that she is somewhat avoidant and I am somewhat anxious. And what that means is it's not like I'm sitting around in high anxiety and she's just avoiding. What it means is when conflict comes up, when disagreement comes up, our natural go-to, what we've been trained to go to, is, for me, anxiety. So meaning I'll press for resolution. And for her, avoidance, which means she'll step out. She just won't participate. Now, once we discovered this, once we understood this about ourselves, that actually changed the dynamic. I mean, we talked about it, and it was really interesting because in that particular dynamic, in the avoidant anxious dynamic, the way that works is when a triggering situation comes up, she steps away, I step in more. And the more I step in, the more she wants to step out. The more she wants to step out, the more I want to step in, which naturally leads to conflict. All right? Conflict being, hey, where are you going? We have something to work out here. Or, hey, why are you bothering me? This is scary for me, what you're doing, right? That's one is the expression of the anxious. The other is the expression of the avoidant. So let's talk about attachment styles that impact really stuck relationships, right? That presumably, if one member shows up as secure, that secure person is going to work through with the other partner, whatever it is they have going on, because they're going to be sort of like a rock, a bedrock. So let's talk about what happens when we get one of these insecure attachments, two of these insecure attachment styles together. All right, so the first is the anxious avoidant trap, which I just literally shared about, right? One craves closeness, the other withdraws from intimacy, and this creates a push-pull dynamic, and both partners feel very unfulfilled in that situation. The statistics show that this can impact 30 to 40% of couples. 30 to 40% of couples can have this dynamic, which is really interesting when you consider that the original statistic was that only 25% of the population is anxious and 25% is avoidant. It doesn't really work. So, I mean, what that suggests is there's something not right about the statistics, but the statistics indicate that this is high. Now let's talk about fearful avoidant. People who are afraid and people who are avoidant have a whole different dynamic going on. The fearful avoidant dynamic is when they become afraid, they put up barriers and they become unstable. And the avoidant person, again, is stepping out. And again, both people feel unfulfilled, unhappy, and there's no resolution of difference in this dynamic. The statistics show about 5 or 15% of adults have a fearful avoidant attachment style, and they tend to experience the most difficulty in maintaining stable and committed relationships. There's something about fear versus anxiety that really locks a relationship down. All right. What happens when you have a secure attachment style with an avoidant attachment style, or secure attachment style with an avoidant secure with fearful avoidant, secure with fearful avoidant, or secure with avoidant, or secure with anxious. All right, one would hope that the secure person would really hold things down. But in reality, the secure person may be put off by the anxiety, right? They're not going to go into avoidance, but the anxiety over time may wear on them and grate on them if it isn't addressed. And for the anxious person, the secure person is naturally not going to interact with the anxiety if at all possible. So in the secure avoidance situation, the secure person is going to feel that there's a lack of connection. They'll allow the avoidance, but there's a lack of connection. With the secure person and a fearful avoidant, again, there's going to be a lack of connection, and there's going to be concern about the fear. Without identifying the attachment styles and identifying the roots of these attachment styles, the relationship is going to, at best, bumble forward, at worst, be stuck. And many, many people experience stuckness. Some signs that your relationship is stuck due to attachment styles are frequent arguments over the same issues without resolution. You know, that that fight that never resolves itself, the one where both people get angry, I'm going to win, you're going to lose fight that we talk about here, the fight, that is a surefire sign that you've got attachment style challenges in your relationship. If one partner is frequently withdrawing while the other partner becomes anxious or feels rejected, that's a sign. If there's difficulty moving past emotional or physical barriers, if you're not having a physical intimacy, the chances are you've got some attachment style challenges. If you're avoiding deep conversations about feelings and needs, or if deep conversations about feelings and needs inevitably lead to the fight, you've probably got some attachment style challenges. Again, I would say that 60% of the population has an insecure attachment style. And the chances that 40% of the population is all secure attachment styles with each other are it's maybe 50-50. All right, so what can you do about this? Like the big thing is, if you're stuck, if you're having fights, if you're avoiding fights, if you just can't seem to get where you want to go, the first thing to do is take a look at your attachment style and maybe get some idea what your partner's attachment style. And it might be worth it to have a conversation just about attachment style, right? Like my wife and I did when we explored this together. It's like a big aha moment for us. And we've done a lot of work on the marriage as a result. Ways that you can do that is think about your childhood circumstances. So secure attachment often results from childhood where parents are consistently, responsive, nurturing, and emotionally available. Anxious attachment styles tend to develop when children have inconsistent caregivers. Sometimes they're attentive, sometimes they're distant, which creates anxiety about whether emotional needs will be met. You know, it could come out of a situation where one parent travels a good deal, or maybe one parent is in the military. Inconsistent caregiving is what triggers the anxious attachment style. Or it might be that there was consistent secure attachment for a while, and then one parent disappeared. That might create anxious attachment. Avoidant attachment is typically the result of children who have emotionally distant or dismissive caregivers. So what that means is the caregiver, the parent, is either just not present, or when they're physically present, they're not emotionally present. They're focused on other things. They don't want to talk about feelings. They don't make an intimate connection with the children. And this leads to the child to learn that expressing emotions or seeking closeness will not be rewarded. Let's just talk about those two attachment styles for a second. In the anxious attachment style, the only way that the anxious attachment style person gets attention is through expressing anxiety. In the avoidant attachment style, they don't want attention. They don't want closeness. They've been taught that there's no reward in it. In the anxious attachment style, a huge challenge is and let me speak as someone who has got an anxious attachment style, to let go of the anxiety. In the avoidant attachment style, the huge challenge is to be willing to seek a little closeness, to lean in despite the natural urge to avoid closeness. So in that combination, each person is going to need to take a step that goes against their natural or it's trained attachment style. You need to get that all of this is the attachment style is happening on an unconscious level, right? So it's about acknowledging that even though you have an unconscious drive that's taking you one direction, consciously you're going to work at moving in another direction. This is like step one. In the fearful avoidant attachment style, there's the double whammy of I've got to face my fear, and I've got to be willing to step in. Usually these are people who have a childhood that is marked by trauma, marked by abuse, marked by highly unpredictable caregiving. Now, in all three cases, right, the trick is letting go of old emotions and beliefs and moving into a new style of connecting. A process that we do here at Rich in Relationship that helps with this is called Mental and Emotional Release Breakthrough Sessions. It is the way that we help individuals in relationships to let go of old attachment styles that aren't working and develop new strategies in life. It opens up communication. We have communication techniques that we can teach you on the front end, even without the breakthrough sessions, that will help you to get through some of this. In fact, we offer a free course on how to end the fight and open up communication as a basic 101 approach. And if you're interested in that, you should go to our website, richinrelationship.com, and take a look. You'll find that there as a free offering, and it comes with some free coaching. These techniques are going to help you to create balance. They're going to help you to move forward. They're going to help you to have greater intimacy. And I want to remind you that 40% of couples who are in a therapeutic environment are dealing with attachment style mismatches. Wow, mismatches. What a terrible term. And that professional guidance can be transformative for the relationship. Hey, truthfully, there are no mismatches. Any attachment style challenge that is present can be worked through. When we let go of old emotions, when we let go of old beliefs from the past, then we have the opportunity to create something new, something lasting, something meaningful. We have the opportunity to create strategies, to act on them, and to adjust as we move forward. So again, I'm inviting you to go to our website, richinrelationship.com, and grab some of the free resources there so you can work on this. It'll help you to get basically unstuck. And if you're liking what you're hearing here, please like, subscribe, share on whatever social media platforms you use. If you have any questions, go to the website. You can get a free consultation, or just email me through the website. There's a way you can reach out to me there. I look forward to hearing from you, and have a great day.